In this video we're going to look at customary units of length. So customary units are units that are used in the US, probably other places in the world. They're not metric units. So metric units are the ones that most places use, and those are things like meters and centimeters and millimeters and kilometers. Those are metric units of length. Customary units are different. So let's take a look at the types of customary units of length that we have. If we think about them, we have inches, we have feet, we have yards, and we have miles. Okay, and the abbreviations for that are IN for inches, FT for feet, YD for yards, and MI for miles. So these are the customary units of length. And then to make smaller things, we usually use like fractions of inches, like ½ inch, ¾ inch, 7/16 inch, kind of like that. So in order to convert between these, you need to know the ratios, or how many of one fit into the other. So if we take a look at inches and feet, if I say how many inches equals 1 foot, it's going to be 12. So you've just got to memorize that. There's no way to figure it out. It's just memorization. So that's the ratio. Now feet into yards. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. Again, need to memorize it. And then you've got yards, and there's another one actually that's kind of, just move that down for a second. Pop it over here. Yards into miles. How many yards make a mile? Well, again, this is kind of an odd one. It's not anything that you can do but just memorize. It's 1,760. It's not like it's a nice even 2,000 or anything. You just have to memorize that. And that would mean that since 1,760 yards make a mile, and there's 3 feet in every yard, you'd have to multiply that by 3 to figure out how many feet make a mile. And if you do that, you're going to find that it's 5,280. So you need to memorize at least one of these, right? If you memorize this one, you times it by 3 to get this one. If you memorize this one, you divide it by 3 to get that one, right? Or you can just memorize them both. So those are the ratios. Well, great. What do we do with them now that we know what the ratios are? So if we're converting between inches and feet, so I'm going from this unit to this unit in that direction, okay? So I've got to look at the numbers. Well, what are the numbers? 12 and 1. How would I go from 12, the number 12, to the number 1? Now I could subtract 11, but in this case we're either going to multiply or divide. Those are the only two units the only two operations we're going to use. So how do I get from 12 to 1? Well, I'd have to do 12 divided by 12, right? So I'd have to divide by 12 in order to move from my 12 inches to my 1 foot. Okay? If I was going in the other direction, from feet to inches, I'd have to go from 1 to 12. So how do I take 1 and change it into 12 through multiplying or dividing? Well, I multiply by 12. So it's the opposite, right? It's the opposite operation with the same number. So either divide by 12 or multiply by 12 to move from feet to inches, or from inches to feet. So let's say I had a question that said something like 258 inches equals how many feet? Well, what am I moving from? I'm moving from inches to feet. So what do? I got to divide by 12. So I've got to take 258 and divide it by 12 to get the number of feet. Okay, so let's just do that real quick. Say 258 divided by 12. So 12 into 2 doesn't go. 12 into 25 goes twice, because 2 times 12 is 24. So that gives me 1 remainder. Bring down my 8. And 12 into 18 goes once, with a remainder of 6. So what do I do with that? Well, that 21 is the number of feet, because that's the number of 12s I could get out of it. So yes, it is going to be 21 feet. But what about that remainder of 6? Well, what is it? It's 6 of those 258s, right? So what were those? Those were inches. So it's going to become 12 foot 6 inches. And that's how we do it. We don't make a metric. We don't say 12 point something feet. We say feet and inches, 12 foot 6 inches. If there was no remainder, it would just be the feet. Right? So that's how you do your conversion. If I was going in the other direction, and I had something like, say, 22 feet, and I want to convert that into, how many inches is that? Well, how do I go from feet to inches? Well, from feet to inches, I have to multiply by 12. So I'd have to take my 22 feet and multiply it by 12. 22 times 12, whatever that is, would be the number of inches. Okay, I guess we'll just go ahead and do that real quick. I need to draw. 22 times 12. Okay, multiplying by 12 is not too difficult to do because it's just 1s and 2s. 2 times 2, 4. 2 times 2, 4. Add my 0. 1 times 2, 2. 1 times 2, 2. When I put those together, I get 4, 6, 2. So 22 feet would be 264 inches. So it doesn't matter what the inches or the feet are, you just need to know what you need to do with them. You're either multiplying by 12 or you're dividing by 12. Now the other ratios are the same. In fact, the feet to yards one is easier. If I want to go from feet over to yards in that direction, I'm going from 3 to 1. So 3 divided by 3 makes 1. If I want to go from yards to feet, I'm going from 1 to 3. So 1 times 3 makes 3. So in this case, whatever feet you have, if you want to change it into yards, you have to divide it by 3. So if I wanted 3,280 feet, and I want to change it into yards, what do I have to do? I have to divide it by 3, right? I have to take that and divide by 3 to get that. I'm not going to do it, but that's what you'd have to do. If I had the other direction, if I had something like 28 yards, and I wanted to change that into feet, what would I have to do? Well, let's see. From yards to feet is multiplied by 3, so I have to multiply that by 3 to get that. So, again, the ratios, if you know them, you know what you need to do. So for feet to inches and back again, it's multiply or divide by 12. For feet to yards and back again, it's multiply and divide by 3. Now, if you're looking at feet to miles, then you've got this big old number to multiply and divide by, right? So feet and miles, if I want to go from feet to miles, I'm going to have to divide by 5,280. Might be a bit tricky, right? If I want to go back again from miles to feet, I have to multiply by 5,280. Might be a little easier to do that, but still possibly challenging. However, if I've got something like 3 miles times 5,280, it's just 3 times 5,280. That would be easy. With the yards, you'd have to multiply or divide by 1,760. So that's the idea. If you know the ratios, then you know what to multiply and divide by to convert between the two of them. And then you just have to do the math to figure it out. And that's just the way it is. In 5th grade, we do it by hand. When you get into middle school, you're going to use a calculator. But you need to know what you're doing with a calculator. A calculator will do it for you, but you punch in the numbers, so you need to know how to do it. So it's good to know this, especially this bit here, where you know the ratios.